Hold tight. Hold tight. All right. Now we're okay. I'm so sorry about that. I am just trying to test some of this software out. Okay. All right. I am here. I'm Willie Bragg. Welcome to the Willie Bragg Show. I was trying to work on theme music and I had trouble with the overlay trying to get the screen cleared so you could see my face. So I am here and we're going to talk about some politics. But before I do, I decided to start to add a theme song to the show. So that's what I'm doing right now. And what you just heard there was Hackers by Carl Casey. Hackers by Carl Casey is 80s retro new wave. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. So anyway, I am back and I want to go ahead and let's get to the meat and potatoes of this program and got everybody in the mood and all of that. So I want to talk about the conservative movement today. And it's been doing a lot of soul searching and seemingly been doing a makeover. And it's trying to redefine itself. And I noticed that during, I think this basically started probably around the time with the rise of the Ron Paul movement in 2008 when he ran for president. And he ran again in 2012. And there was a movement within the Republican Party for a more libertarian outlook. Downplay the culture war, downplay the evangelical stuff. Let's focus on economics. That was the seemed to be the thing for people who lean libertarian. And some of these folks, they weren't like pure libertarian, but they kind of like the idea of just staying off the social issues. Because, I mean, let's face it, the Republican Party, most Republicans in the leadership, honestly, they don't give a shit about abortion. They don't give a shit about gay marriage. They don't give a shit about this culture war bullshit that a lot of the movement base seems to care about. And it's an embarrassment to the party. It hangs like an albatross. The left, the squad, people like that, you can call them the Democratic Party's counterparts in the sense that the Nancy Pelosi's of the world and the Chuck Schumer's of the world and the Joe Biden's and the Kamala Harris's of the world look at them as a pariah and kind of want them out of the way because they are embarrassed by the squad. They're embarrassed by Bernie Sanders. They're even embarrassed by Elizabeth Warren, the snake. Elizabeth Warren. They're embarrassed because they're too far left. They're not that far left, folks. Anyway, so during the Obama years, and I'm just going by my observation. I remember during the Obama years, there was the liberalism and the left seemed to have gone a little on the haywire side to the point where there were people who were identified as social progressives, liberal or left, that kind of started sliding toward libertarianism, and some of them actually jump into the actual conservatism. And I'm not really going to go and talk to those that jumped into actual conservatism, but I'm going to talk about those that kind of went into libertarianism as a way to kind of reel in people who were liberal leaning. And it started, I think it started around 2015. The trend is where I can really pinpoint this. And it started with people like Dave Rubin. And Dave Rubin started out on the Young Turks. And y'all know what the Young Turks is. If you watch this program, chances are like 99.99999% of you know about the Young Turks. And, you know, you think there's a civil war between the Young Turks and the other online leftists? Well, before that Civil War came about. It wasn't so much as a civil war, but a parting of the ways. Dave Rubin was on the Young Turks. He wasn't necessarily even the furthest left-wing member of the Young Turks. He was kind of a standard liberal, standard progressive. While the Young Turks tended to be very critical of Israel, he was sort of the token liberal Zionist. That would apply to David Pakman too. And I kind of think Sam Cedar sort of evokes that a little bit. I could sort of read between the lines. So there was that. And I think that and what was also interesting is in the year 2015, and when Bernie Sanders announced his candidacy for president, once upon a time, Dave Rubin was a Bernie Sanders supporter. He was almost a Bernie bro. I mean, he was supportive of Bernie Sanders. And somehow, somewhere along the way, and I'm not going to say, I'm upset by the way he's criticized the left and, what is called a regressive left, and how come he left the left and the left was no longer liberal and he went to this classical liberal, whatever he went through by 2016, 2017, 2018, all that. Well, the thing about Dave Rubin is, and I'm going to tell you, when he started talking about political correctness, wokeism, SJW, all that back then, I'm going to tell you, just like now, back then, I was a little sympathetic to what he had to say, but I never wanted it to go to basically take that message and that narrative and say everything that's about the left suck. That was never any intention. And I saw that I saw him doing that little by little. And it became alarming after a while. And it started like this. It started that he had guests on the Rubin Report. He had, and prior to his parting ways with the Young Turks on the Rubin Report, he had a mix of guests, ideologically and everything. He would interview them. And it was a boring interview show. And I don't have a problem with a program that interviews people from across the political spectrum. I have no problem with that. When he went on his own, I don't think that much changed. It was still probably a standard liberal progressive program at the very beginning. I never had a problem ever with him having people that I passionately disagree with, like Steven Crowder, like Ben Shapiro, or Dinesh D'Souza, or Glenn Beck. People that I passionately have always disagreed with. Never had a problem with him sitting there, having them on the set, your Candace Owens, your Blair Whites, I mean, you name it, Roseanne Barr, all of these folks who I think that Roseanne Barr was kind of teetering toward the right at that point. But the point I'm trying to make is I never had a problem with him interviewing these people and even being polite to these people, as much as I disagree with almost all of them. I mean, to the point where I really despise majority of them, Dennis Prager, all of these folks. The problem I had with Dave Rubin interviewing them was the free pass he gave. I don't mind the politeness. I don't mind him being open-minded and agreeing, in the a stop clock gets the right time twice a day mentality. I never mind that, because there's this thing called being a free thinker. And I mean, I do not believe for 1 second, not for 1 second, I do not believe that there is a person alive that's on the left that's 100% leftist. And I do not believe that there's a conservative or right-leaning person alive that is 100% conservative and 100% rightist. Don't call me a centrist when I say this, but that's what I believe. We're all complex human beings, and we're all guided by our individual reality. So I want to say that right there from the get-go. Now, the problem I run across with Dave Rubin is this. Dave Rubin will have a Ben Shapiro and all these other folks that I mentioned. You're Steven Crowley, you're Dinesh D'Souza, you know, the usual suspects. And it would be like, I'm a liberal. I am the last liberal. And I agree with everything you say. And all these other liberals out there, they're evil. That's basically what I heard from Dave Rubin. And I'm like, he just made a fucking safe space for these motherfuckers. Again, I don't have a problem with being polite. Although I would not want to be polite to Ben Shapiro. I would not want to be polite to Steven Crowder. I wouldn't want to be polite to Dinesh D'Souza or any of these motherfuckers. Wouldn't. I mean, they're all assholes. I mean, they basically took 1993 Rush Limbaugh talking points and molded it and sculptured it for a younger audience, while still talking the garbage that spewed out of Rush Limbaugh's mouth from back then. Well, while people on the left, Michael Figueredo, the Humanist Report, the Young Turks, the late Michael Brooks, Sam Cedar, Kyle Kalinske, David Pakman, pokes fun quite a bit at Dave Rubin. And when they do, it's kind of funny, some of the stuff they say. I used to think it was kind of mean at first and everything. And then I was like, no, it's not mean. Look, he turned into a mega Kool-Aid drinking moron. And now he's sitting there just a vile, just like Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro and all of them, and then now I'm starting to feel sorry for him because, I don't think that Dave Rubin is a bad person in his personal life. I mean, for the conservatives out there, not all of them, Megyn Kelly was okay with him and his husband adopting a kid. She's grown up about this. This Mary Beth Stuckley, or I can't think of her name, kind of a social conservative. Jacqueline Glenn was talking about her, and she was kind of cool with Dave Rubin and David Janet adopting a kid, two kids. But then she had a pushback by the right wing. They were about ready to impose some kind of cancel culture on her. And she had to do some backflips and some acrobat and basically, just try to cover her tracks. And which is a damn shame because she went with her gut instinct and she had a conscience and she looked at Dave Rubin as an individual and she liked working with him, obviously. And, Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck basically was on his way years ago, moderating himself on issues like this, almost sounding like he was going to be pro-LGBTQ. And now Glenn Beck has tiptoed back into the old-fashioned right wing. It's not overt homophobia in the John Hagee hateful sense of the term, but it is more along the lines of love the sin or hate the sin attitude. And, in 1979, 1980, that might have been okay. In 2022, that's bullshit. If you're socially conservative, that's fine and everything. I don't believe in sitting there and forcing people to change their thoughts on whatever matters. You can love whoever you want and dislike whoever you want to dislike, as far as I'm concerned. You do you. You have a right to have whatever views you want. I am not out there to police people's thoughts. In fact, I'm dead set against that. It goes against a very core beliefs of mine. I believe the best way to make a society tolerant is to appeal to their sense of justice. And that's what it takes. And I do think that changing the economy to making life good for people will also go on that path. So, but the thing about it is that Dave Rubin, when he decided to go conservative, he himself went on a libertarian path. He is still kind of a libertarian. I mean, and he's not really a deep thinker. I mean, he's not stupid like some of the online leftist people making fun of him say he is. I mean, he's got several million subscribers on, and so he's obviously doing something right. And he's got a nice new home, and everything. And so, I mean, he's obviously not that stupid. So, but he can't. I mean, he still won't debate certain people on the left because he knows that they'll beat him. He knows that David Packerman would beat him in the debate. He knows that Sam Cedar would beat him in the debate. He knows that Kyle Kalinske would beat him in the debate. He knows these people would, and he avoids them like a plague. And these conservatives will sit there and tell people, the liberals are these leftists, they're afraid to debate us. And then some of these leftists are be like, hey, we'll debate you, bud. And then they'll go and make all kinds of excuses. And Dave Rubin is one of those folks doing just that. So, I mean, it's not just Dave Rubin. There are other folks kind of similar to Dave Rubin going on that path. Tim Pool. Tim Pool is another such person. He goes on that path. He was a leftist or somewhat on the left. Another person who was a Bernie Sanders supporter in 2016 also. And he became a Trump supporter in the year 2020. And I think that some money got offered to him, and he grifts. I don't believe that whenever I have seen Tim Pool, he doesn't really strike me as somebody who is a right-wing ideologue. I mean, when I look at Tim Pool, I would think he'd be somebody who will listen to somebody from the online left. I mean, he looks like a Bernie bro from he looks like a millennial Bernie bro, tell you the truth. That's what he looks like. He looks like somebody that would be at a Bernie Sanders rally. And I don't think he's particularly right-wing and on a lot of social policy. But he says just enough to reel in maybe people who are teetering and having second thoughts about their ideology because of maybe some of the excesses that exist on the left, some maybe obnoxious elements that may exist on the left. And sometimes I have to be honest and have to call out on my side and this sort of thing. But that doesn't mean that people like Dave Rubin and Tim Pool are correct. They're not. They're not. The difference, I guess, is that they don't really present themselves as Kool-Aid drinking hateful SOBs that spew out Heritage Foundation talking points. And that's what it comes down to. So you got a lot of conservatives that have taken that approach, and so a lot of them will flock around your Ron Pauls, your Rand Pauls, people like that who tends to have a libertarian feel on social issues or some social issues, but that's kind of where they gravitate. And all of that. So, and I think that Charlie Kirk was in that direction, but Charlie Kirk has kind of backflipped, and he's kind of drinking the right-wing Kool-Aid. So Charlie Kirk has kind of gone back into a more Ben Shapiro-like direction. Now, there is a crossroads. And so basically the 1993 talking points of Rush Limbaugh got dressed up. But honestly, what seems to be coming back on the right, and it's being embodied by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in its most ugly case, and people like what's her name, Lauren Boebert and the like, would be this Rush Limbaugh mentality. And it's just, let's face it. Somebody to the right, I mean, they're actually to the right of Rush Limbaugh. Yeah, I think that Rush Limbaugh was a flaming racist. I don't say that necessarily about Sean Hannity, even though I don't like him. I mean, and I hate Mark Levin. I actually don't even think Mark Levin is a racist. But, I mean, he's obnoxious. Like Kyle Kalinske said a few days ago, he's like the angriest man he's ever met. Get off of my lawn, that kind of attitude. Yeah, but Rush Limbaugh kind of made racism appealing to a lot of people, and it culminated in it by the year 2016 with this alt-right movement that Donald Trump led. Yeah, he knew he had a lot of foot soldiers there that he didn't call them out. He didn't call them out. And because he knew they were going to vote for him, and he figured he was going to lose some of their votes. Even though, in my opinion, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, as you've heard me say this before, kind of planted the seed into Donald Trump running for the presidency. But anyhow, let me just finish saying what I'm going to say here. Rush Limbaugh, this is the talking points that seems to be coming back. I'm talking about, the hard line on issues dealing with LGBTQ rights, because the Dave Rubins of the world, and I would say even Tim Pools, all these folks, you don't even hear them talking about these issues, but you're having people now obsessed with trans women going into restrooms. It was never a problem. Or trans women in sports, it's not a problem. Yeah, but they want to make it a problem, and they want to make it sound like that schools are pushing. Fox News is starting to say that public schools are pushing LGBTQ agenda to little kindergarten kids. No, saying that LGBTQ people exist in casual conversation is not sitting there pushing an LGBTQ agenda on children. Now, if there's some teacher exposing kids to pornography, okay, that's inappropriate, regardless of what their sexual orientation is. But this sort of thing is out there to make it sound like LGBTQ people are pedophiles, and this going back to this John Hagee, Pat Robertson, Brian Fisher sort of demonizing LGBTQ people. And it culminated with people like Governor DeSantis declaring war on Disney because Disney dared to speak up against the authoritarianism and, dare I say, the right-wing wokeness of Ron DeSantis. You can be woke on the right too, and he's a fucking culture warrior. I mean, and as I said in my last video, and this is one of the reasons why I will warn liberals that he's fucking more dangerous than Donald Trump. And I'm warning everybody about this. But it also goes back to Rush Limbaugh, because Rush Limbaugh then really kind of prolonged it. I remember in the 1990s, it's not dealing with social culture war issues, but economics. And it's been said, somebody said this to me, and he said, in 1994, when they were drafting that healthcare plan under Hillary Clinton, I think the reason we didn't get universal healthcare is because a lot of people were listening to Rush Limbaugh, and he played a fear game. And I think they were right. And so I Rush Limbaugh, and I'm a free speech person, but I do think that Rush Limbaugh has been a reason why we have not progressed as a nation. I mean, he's been very toxic because he's actually led way into an industry or a line of work in media, talk radio, that's actually made it life a living hell for leftists and progressives to get our message across. I mean, because of the internet, we're able to go and combat these people, but it's going to take years to actually repair the work that's been done by right-wing talk radio all these years. The slander, the lies, the misinformation, and the conspiracy theories. while I oppose the Disinformation Governance Board created by Biden, and I do oppose it, even though I am bothered by Fox News, One American News Network, Newsmax, right-wing talk radio, TV evangelicals who are hyper politically partisan, spewing out conspiracy theories and misinformation and false and actual slandering of their political opponents, and actually basically accusing people who disagree with them on just disagreeing with them on something as benign as a tax policy, saying that they're evil, that these Democrats are evil. This is what we got to deal with. And Rush Limbaugh is a culmination of that. And while I would never wish death on anybody, there's not a person that I will wish death on. No one. That's what makes me better than someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants people to die who disagree with her on any little given issue. You disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, she thinks you ought to die. I don't. That's what makes me better than someone like a Marjorie Taylor Greene out there. And somebody say, "Oh, there you go. You're obsessed with this Marjorie Taylor Greene." I am obsessed with an embodiment of fascism. Adolf Hitler looked crazy in the 1920s and 1930s. He became the Chancellor of Germany, even though, oh, look at Hitler. He's crazy. Well, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's crazy. Nobody could take her seriously. She sat there and called the Roman Catholic Church satanic. I mean, come on now. I mean, just think about how, compare that to how Hitler escaped goated Jews and everybody else. And never forget that Marjorie Taylor Greene is anti-Semitic too. So there you go. I mean, so Rush Limbaugh, his little dog whistles over the years. And I'm a free speech absolutist saying this, but I hated that the left couldn't find an effective way because we lacked the resources and the finances that the right wing had. And, that's, I don't believe in shutting down the opposition, but I certainly believe in, basically doing something about how institutions will spin because they have an unfair advantage, and their unfair advantage fucks us all over. So they're in a crossroads right now, the conservative movement. And it seems like they're going to go back to that. So this is why they're pearl clutching. And they're a little mad that the memo came out about Roe versus Wade might be overturned because they want to keep that under the wraps for a while. Now they know the Democrats are going to raise money and that their victory, their extreme victory in 2022 might not be as much of a landslide that they anticipated it to be. And they're upset about that. And because I'm going to put it this way. The Democrats are going to fearmonger. And I'm a little upset too, because they're going to go and fearmonger. And they're glad, the Democrats, they can go raise money and they don't have to listen to Bernie Sanders and AOC nag at them about the more the more generous elements of what could have been Build Back Better, or things like a public option, or Medicare for all, or debt forgiveness, or what have you. I mean, or all this union talk, because they were scared that the Democratic Party was scared. They were glad they had to get away from the unions for a while. That's why they loved Bill Clinton. They loved Bill Clinton because the Democratic Party got away from those pesky unions, and they could get those Wall Street dollars, because Wall Street do not care. they do not care about issues like God, gays, and guns. All they care about is their money, and they know that the Democrats will deregulate almost as much as the Republicans. So they're going to put up with some a little cosmetic differences in the economy. That they will do that, but so then the Democrats know they got to play ball with their corporate donors, and they rather do that than to play ball with the unions and with what I call the people, the working class. So there we are, and this is what we see in the year 2022 with the conservative movement. And these are my thoughts, and I'm sorry I'm going a little long as usual, but this is how I see things right now. So anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, that's okay. Comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel as the First Amendment absolutist. It's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Let's see what else I was going to say. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. And remember, we have a class struggle to wage, and we have a First Amendment to save, which means freedom of the press, freedom of the speech, which brings me to always concluding by saying this, that like I always like to say, that we're all Julian Assange. And that brings me to saying this right now, and that is music. Very soon we still keep the outro music. Have a great day.